Hi, this is Melanie from Screen Time with Mel, and we are going to talk about the Serpent Queen Season 1, Episode 4. So let's get on with it. Hi everybody, thanks so much for joining me here today. If you're returning, thank you so much for joining me here again. Hopefully you enjoyed this video as much as you enjoyed the last one you watched. And if you are new here, well, thank you so much for checking us out. I am going to be talking about today the Serpent Queen Season 1, Episode 4, and I hope you enjoy it. If you do, don't forget to go down below and hit that like button. It really helps with the algorithm. Thanks. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about this episode. We start a little bit after the previous episode, where it ended with the Queen meeting up with Queen Mary, Queen of Scots, in the halls. This is soon after her son died, who was the husband of Mary, and so we're a little bit after that. The servant Rahima is coming to her rooms when the other servant girl that's been picking on her mentions that Mary has a claim to the throne and gives her a hard time about that. And Rahima, of course, asks the Queen about it. While the Queen never directly answers that question, she does launch into another lesson, and we get to look a little bit at history again. Now, I guess we are no longer going to have the younger version of Catherine, because we are jumping 15 years ahead in the past, and I really enjoyed that younger version of Catherine. She was wonderful. Now, 15 years ahead, and Catherine has had 8 children, sons and daughters, and she's giving birth at the beginning of this memory, and the child that she gives birth to is born dead. So we start out with her mourning for that child, and the king's consort, who is Diane, Catherine's cousin, still the king's primary lover, and she is kind of weaseling her way in to the king's favor with the children, and that's gonna have some problems going forward. But what the ladies do, the queen or Catherine's ladies do, they force her to get out of bed so that she becomes more active in her children's life, and of course before she loses the king to Diane. So she goes out to where all the children are playing with the king, or with the Dauphine, and Diane's watching on, and Catherine sits down next to her, says she has some biscuits, and she says Mary, who is there, and the Queen did mention this earlier, Mary's been with them since she was betrothed to her son, who at the age of 4, and has been with them since then. So, but she's older than the prince, but the prince is completely besotted with her, and she kind of has become their mother figure in a way, and saying that they can't have sweets before dinner and stuff like that. And Diane uses this against Catherine, saying, hey, I don't know that Mary will let them eat it, but leave the biscuits here, maybe I'll make sure that they have some. You know that she's either not going to even try that, or she's going to say they're from her, but that never even comes to pass. The king does talk to her, and she asks the king to visit her that night, and when he doesn't, she goes to his rooms, and he is with Diane. She asks the king why he did not come to her rooms, and Diane stated it's because the doctor told her that Catherine would likely die if she tried to give birth again. So he doesn't want to visit her rooms anymore. And at that point, Catherine says she doesn't want Diane there any longer, that he should be with her because she's the queen, she is his wife. And of course he doesn't care about that. She'd been happy with the arrangement so far, but now that this new wrinkle is in there, which do we even know if that's true? I don't know. But regardless, that becomes a pretty sticking point. Now, one thing that I did enjoy about this episode is the relationship between the current king, Henry, I believe his name is, and Catherine and their relationship. And you can tell that there's something wrong with the king because during a meeting he was eating and he was acting like he had bad indigestion. Okay? So that passes, but then he wants to do an early morning hunt. Well, he invites Catherine on that hunt, and he makes a dismissive comment to the Dauphine about him staying home, practicing his needlepoint with Diane instead of doing hunting. And of course, he doesn't listen. He goes on the hunt, and Catherine's there as well. She witnesses the king letting a stag go because she is the first of the party to catch up with him, and the rest of the party catches up. He tries to get on his horse and he collapses. Well, he ends up being in his deathbed, but before he passes, he does talk to Catherine, tells her the king, that the Dauphine does not realize how much he needs Catherine, and gives her some advice, and then demands that the Dauphine, when he becomes king, makes Catherine part of the Privy Council. After the king does pass, and before the coronation, he does make her part of the Privy Council, and she expresses, at the urging of the previous king, that the new king, her husband, be prepared for war because the Roman emperor is going to test him. Everybody scoffs at her and says it's not going to be true. Meanwhile, she suggests to the king that him being with Diane is a problem with him being the king now because she's so much older than him, and the court would think that he's not independent, and suggests that she be given an estate away from court, but close enough that the new king can go and visit her whenever he wants. So she makes these arrangements. Diane then decides that, well, she needs to be unforgettable. So she reaches out to one of Catherine's ladies who's known to do little tricks here and there, have little potions. She gives her a spot of gold to ingest, and supposedly that's to help her be illuminated from the inside out. And when the coronation day comes, she ends up escorting the new king out to the coronation, presents him, and then presents the queen as an afterthought. Big insult. Well, while they're there, a messenger comes with a head from the Roman emperor, proving Catherine right. I found that fascinating. One, the relationship between the old king, I think King Henry, and Catherine was wonderful to see, and also to humanize Catherine with the death of her son, and understand that she still needs to continue to plot. There is an interesting interchange between the king's mistress and Diane. The king's mistress told Diane, you're going to be in my place before too long. And once the king dies, because she's being sent away along with other members of the court. Now the queen, the previous queen, told Catherine it would be in her best interest to fade into the background. Catherine's like, I don't think I can do that. And the queen looks at her and says, yeah, I thought so. Basically, she said, yeah, I thought so. You're not the type. So, and that's before the Privy Councils meets, and then she tells them about the threat from the Roman emperor. Now, of course, these lessons are for Rahima, her maid. And one thing that's kind of funny, and it happens towards the end of the episode. Now, every morning when Rahima goes to take the breakfast to the queen, she gets lewd remarks from these two squires, I guess, that are in the hallway on the way to the queen. Well, in the last scene, because there's always the last scene where Rahima's learned a lesson from the queen, right? And in that particular scene, she says, oh, to the captain, oh, one of these. They exposed themselves to me. And the captain's like, what do you want me to do? And she said, well, you know, the queen did say that anybody who interfered with her maid would have to answer to her. So he says, okay, which one of them isn't? She goes, no, I can't tell. But maybe if they dropped their pants, I'd be able to tell which one was the offending member. So the captain makes them do this. They expose themselves to her, and she looks between the two and she goes, I'm sorry, I must have been mistaken, because the one I saw was much, much bigger. And then they, of course, suitably embarrassed, with the other maids giggling, continues on to the queen and smile. Well, yeah, I think on to the queen. But then eventually they show her in her room. She gets a book and starts reading, and then that's the end of the episode. So it's a little bit of intrigue back and forth with the passing of the title of king. And like I said, I really enjoyed the relationship between the old king and Catherine. And I love the interchange between the old king's mistress and then Diane, who is the current king's mistress. And the maneuvering that Catherine is trying to set in place to make sure that she doesn't have this competition in court for her husband's favors, or you know, just that people understand that she does have power within the court and she's not just a figurehead. So I can't wait to see how it continues on. I'm still really enjoying this. I know that there was one scene here where all the ladies of the court were playing bridge or something like that. And Catherine does the fourth wall break, and she's like, I saw my life written before me here. And basically she was like, I do not want to live this life. It's boring. I don't want, that's basically the tone that's set for that. So we are going to see a lot more maneuvering from Catherine. I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be fascinating. And yeah, let's keep on going. All right, what did you guys think of this episode? Is there anything that I missed that I should have talked about? Is there anything that you really enjoyed, or something that you didn't like? Go ahead and mention that down below. I'd love to chat with you about it. And if you have reached this point in the video and you enjoyed it, then don't forget to hit that like button. And while you're down there, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell so that you're reminded each time I come out with a brand new video. Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are amazing, and have an amazing day. Thank you. Bye-bye.